We are roughly 2.5 months into the cooling measure, and for today's video, I'll be sharing with you about these 4 things in which I researched on. So the first one we'll be talking about is, so how is the market performance from the cooling measure till now? How has the buyers been reacting to the market? Number 2, I will also be conducting some surveys and their results in which the buyers are thinking of buying for the next 12 months. And I will also be looking at the HDB developer point of view and also the private developer point of view and your direction for the next 12 months. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to this channel on YouTube and click on the alert notification. Hi, I'm James Lim, founder of the Property Plus system, and today I'll be talking about the market sentiments from the home buyers for the next 12 months and what we'll be expecting into the near future. Now, firstly, just to share with you what happens in December 15, 2021 last year was that the government comes in with certain cooling measures. So the first column you can see is it has the higher buyers ABSD or additional buyer's stamp duty by the government to tax people who are buying second or more properties. So if you are a first time buyer, it will not be affected to you. Now, the second thing is that there is the increase of the total debt servicing ratio that people will be able to borrow less. So instead of 60% of your income, they will only be able to look at only 55% of your income. So therefore, people will be able to take lesser mortgages. The third one is that this is only applicable for HDB, whereby there's a reduced loan to value ratio, whereby the ratio has been reduced from 90% to 85%, which means when you want to buy a HDB unit, you have to fork out minimum of 15% cash plus CPF. Okay, and lastly, for developers, the ABSD has been increased from a 10 to 35% increase. Okay, and this will also affect some developers, which I will also be talking at my last few slides. So let's look at the market performance of private developments from November all the way to right now. Okay, so you can see that from this data that I collected, the table actually shows not only the price index but also the volume, and you can see that from around the second quarter of 2020, that was when during the circuit breaker occurs, and you can see that these two has the lowest number of transactions for those two period. So the reason why those two was basically is because of the circuit breaker. But after the circuit breaker, you can see that the price actually remains the same, and also the demand of it is actually pretty strong. But what actually worries the government was that in the November 2021 at time, that was when the price at the all-time high, and because the government is scared that the price will still continue to go up, in the mid of December, they actually coming with a new cooling measure. But I feel that the cooling measure was a little bit too late, because from November to December, you will see that the average per square foot was actually decreased from 1,863 down to 1,599. And because there's a decrease already, and the government comes in with the cooling measure, the government actually was a little bit too late. So with or without the cooling measure, this should still be the trend, because it never shows that the price actually shot up in December and went down in January. But let's look at for the next 5 months from November all the way to Feb. So what you will see that the volume actually decreased. So in November total, there is a 3,000 over units sold, and from December it actually dropped down to 2,000. And because there is a cooling measure that comes in December, so you will see that in January the volume also dropped even further from 21,000 all the way to 15,000. And scary thing is that in February maybe it's because also is comes in line with the Chinese New Year period, it actually drops 300 over percent down to 500 over units. But across the board, if you see from November all the way to Feb, you'll see that the price actually remains pretty consistent. There's not much change at all, even there's an impact of the cooling measure. So why is this so? So therefore, the second research that we are going to do is that we'll be talking about the buyer sentiment survey. So this buyer sentiment survey was actually conducted in December all the way to January. And this is where we talk about the ownership aspiration, and we are looking, in total we have 1,148 people who was on survey, and it's spread across different age groups and also different economic profiles. Now let's look at the first research. The first research is that we ask buyers what do they think that the price is going to happen for them, okay? And this group of buyers are those that either bought a property already or are about to hunt for a property, and the third one was also that they are thinking of whether should they put down the offer. So this group of buyers are more into the market. They are not people who are anywhere that is thinking of buying a purchase but have not get involved yet. So this group of buyers actually knows the current market right now, okay? And when we come across this group of buyers that time, you can see that this is in the form of percentage. The main two group of buyers, okay, fears that the price will either remain stable or they fear that the price will actually continue to increase 1 to 3% for the next 1 year. Now let's look at the impact of the cooling measures. So we have these 4 tables. Let's look at the first impact yet. So for the first impact, which has the largest impact, the main concern where the buyers are not buying is that they fear that there is an increase of ABSD that will cause their major decision or the major impact on them on not to go forward with the decision or to buy. Now this group of buyers, when they are not buying the property due to the increase of ABSD, likely they are investors. So I will categorize them, the investors, as the one with the largest impact. Now if we look at the small impact and the moderate impact, the two major issues will be the tightening of TDSR and also the increase of housing supply. So these are your two main concerns for these two. And why they have a moderate or a little impact to them is because there's a tightening of TDSR, which means they can borrow less amount. When they will be able to borrow less amount, they will have a smaller selection to choose from, so they have not so big of an impact, and they are more towards the private or home buyers. I'll consider them the home buyers. So these are the two main concerns that have for home buyers. But for little impact, you'll see that the biggest jump was actually the tightening LTV for HDB loan. So for people who are actually looking at HDB, who feels that there's no impact in the market, basically they are people who are actually looking at HDB. Now let's look at how cooling measures affect respondents seeking to purchase a property for the next 1 year. Alright, so you can see that actually I put in 4 tables. The first one who feels that they have no impact at all, okay, and that is actually quite a high number, that is actually 35%. So there is actually a very small group of roughly 10% who, because of the cooling measure, they were hunting for a property, and because of the cooling measure kick in, 10% decide not to continue with your property purchase, okay? But however, if you see the highest number, that is over 40%, the biggest number is that because of the cooling measure, or maybe because of the loan to value from the TDSR, where they will be able to borrow less amount, this group of buyers are still keen to buy. Okay, they are still keen to buy, just that they decide to lower your budget, lower your expectations, and maybe to buy a smaller unit, or maybe buy something that is not so close to the city, or buying something that's cheaper. Okay, and the last impact is that we have some numbers that is roughly 13% are going to tap on your reserve funds when they want to buy a new house. Okay. Now, how about the main motivation to purchase the property for the next 12 months? So why are people buying? Okay, or why do they want to buy? So the first one, which is roughly 12%, these are people who are buying actually for investment, looking to buy for rental income. So the two other main smaller portion is that either people are actually downgrading or people are actually upgrading from a HDB flat. But what I would like to highlight to you is the two main reasons why people want to buy a property, okay, for in 2022. So the first main reason why people want to buy a property is because they want to buy for future capital gain. And lastly, people also need a bigger space. People are actually predicting that they are actually going to work from home. Therefore, they were thinking of upgrading to buy a bigger space for themselves. Now, how about ranking in terms of priority? What do people want to buy a condo? What do they look for? So I'm going to look for the last 6 data, the most significant impact of what people want to buy. The reason why I feel this is important is because when you are hunting for a property that you want to buy for, since these are all the demand for when people want to buy a property from you, you must have all these criteria important such that people will buy from you, your property will be more sellable. So of course the number one is that when people want to buy a condo, they want to have concierge services. Okay, concierge services includes dog walking, or maybe delivery, okay, or yeah, some other concierge services. So the second one is distance to schools. So distance to schools is actually quite a significant impact. Of course, the third one is a good design of the property, or it is done by someone famous architect. Okay. The fourth one will be based on location. They will prefer somewhere that is nearer to the city center or maybe nearer to the CBD. The fifth will be smart technology. They want your house to be smart. Okay. And the sixth one is actually upcoming growth. They want something that have a good growth location. So looking at all this, one major change between 2021 to 2022 is actually the third one, which is good design. Okay, more home buyers, when they buy a property, they want something that is actually designed by a famous architect. So that is a major shift in mindset between year 2021 to 2022. Now, let me share a little bit about the HDB market, the direction of where HDB is coming from. So, we know what is the issue right now. Okay, HDB prices has actually still been going up. There's no change in trend, even though there's a cooling measure on how much people can borrow for HDB. But the reason why the HDB market is still going so strong is because the demand still outstrips supply. Okay, and this is basically due to construction delay. So because there's a construction delay, there'll be a longer completion period. And with a longer completion period, people cannot wait. Therefore, they shift from BTO, go to a resale market. Okay, so now, this caused a double-digit growth of HDB market for the last 1 year. And this is really unsustainable over the long run. In fact, it is so unsustainable during December that in my previous video, I actually predicted that a cooling measure will come in that will affect the HDB market and not the private. But, well, the government actually comes into these two markets. So, why is this so? That you can see that evidence is that in 2021, there is over 250 units that is actually sold above 1 million, which is far more than the normal value that is normally between 30 to 50 units per year. But in 2022, we expect the HDB price to slow down because due to a cooling measure, but it may slow down to 5 to 8%, which is still, to me, is still very high number that I still feel is not sustainable. Okay, therefore, there's a knee-jerk reaction that the HDB announced to ramp up supply of public housing for next 2 years. And this will and the impact of the cooling measure will cause more negotiation of the price expectations. We expect price to be more in line with if the current market, means the COV will be lesser. The demand, I still feel that it's going to be robust due to the construction delay. And the main reason is because the seller are actually not in a hurry to sell. They only want to sell when they get a good price. So I do feel that the volume will go down, but the price will still go up for HDB market. But how about developers' direction? Now, just now earlier we show you that in one of the slides about the cooling measure, the developer was actually affected that the ABSD increased from 10 to 35%. So, which means there's a greater risk of developers if they can't sell the unit. And of course, there'll be more strain on developers. So this is what we see and notice a trend right now, especially in the year 2022. The new launches, more developers are actually coming into joint ventures. So basically, what is happening is that for existing projects, okay, there's going to be a squeeze on profitability. So developers just basically want to sell off as fast as possible, try to clear your hands of these properties such that they will not be incurred on the ABSD. Okay, they may also push back your launches to re-strategize on your pricing and market campaign. That is why in this year's Chinese New Year period, there is only one launches, that is the Arden. And normally Chinese New Year period was actually a pretty hot period where the property market is pretty robust in the last few years, but we are not seeing that for this year at all. This year is a little bit quiet, okay? The third one will be more joint venture to spread the risk. So for example, there's one launch that's coming, Piccadilly Grand. Okay, it is actually done by two major developers. One is CDL, the other one is MCL Land. And I feel that this project is actually going to be very, very hot and up and popular. Therefore, please look at my earlier video of the top 5 new launches for 2022. This is one that I will strongly recommend. Okay. Now, for the fourth one, there will be higher price resistance for new land sales, okay, unless it is a good location. So, which means developer will be able to bid more carefully. There will be fewer bidders by the developers. And you will see that recently there was this High Point condo where when the cooling measure came in at time, straight away the developer pulled out, okay, and there will be less en bloc. Lastly, developments that is still under planning, there'll be a change of focus, which means developers right now are actually doing survey on the ground to understand what buyers want. Okay, for example, right now due to this pandemic, this COVID-19 pandemic, people are actually working from home. More people want more room, or rather they want a study room. So from 2022 onwards, I believe that there will be more units that will be coming with a study. So like for example, 3-bedroom plus study, 4-bedroom plus study, and the developer will be telling the architect to make such changes, and the developer will be able to sell this type of units better. So we will look at there will be a shift of units from a 3-bedroom more to a 3 plus study. Now let's look at the historical trend. This will be my last slide for me to explain to you, should you buy now this year? Okay, and does cooling measure or the pandemic actually affect our Singapore property pricing? Now let's look at the cooling measure first. The first cooling measure was in 2013. Okay, that was when multiple cooling measures came in, and you will see that the price actually dropped a little bit, basically about 8 months, and then it actually recovered and shoot back up again. Okay, so the next cooling measure was actually in 2018. There was actually not much change to it. There was actually a small dip, okay, and the price has shoot up again. So now why is this the trend like that? The reason is because the dip was because actually some people actually wait and hold and see whether will the price continue to go up or will the price drop. But when they notice that the price doesn't really drop at all, people just decide, okay, I will just enter the market since I need a property. So my answer will be that if you look at the volume actually dropped a bit, but rebounded upwards roughly around 8 months, and then when the measures are tightened or when there's a new cooling measure, okay? But when you look at the pricing overall price is still upward trend, regardless of whether is there a crisis like the Lehman Brothers crisis in 2008, whether is there a pandemic like the H1N1, or the Singapore slowest economic growth in 2015, there may be a slight drop, but after that it will rebound pretty fast. So I feel that prices are still increasing significantly or in a normal procedure. So the government actually wants property price to go up, all right, but they want it to do it very sustainable. Okay, so the keyword over here I'd like to highlight to you is sustainable. When the government feels that the price is not increasing sustainable, the government will come in with a cooling measure. When the price drop too low, okay, the government will remove the cooling measure, and this has been done before. So if you like this video, please feel free to give a thumbs up button. If you have anything, put in our comment section. I will definitely answer to you if you have any questions. And last of all, if you like this video, please subscribe to us. Thank you, so long, and bye.